Do you have the gift of gab and like talking about interesting topics? Are you often called opinionated by your friends and family? Then come to Anchor where you can be all of the above and get paid for it. Along with being one of the easiest systems to create contact with, Anchor supplies everything you need and can be used from your smartphone or computer. They even distribute your content for you so that you can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and more. Just download the Anchor app or go to Anchor FM to get started. Hello, Internet family. This is Anjanette Potter, also known as Adam's Rib, and you are listening to 28 Days of Feminism. This is out of my AnjanetteSpeak blog, and this is my honorarium, my celebration of all things Black history, but especially the female presence in Black history. Also, so this is something that I do annually every year to celebrate Black women's place in Black history, but also in Black feminism. So for one thing, I would like to celebrate. This podcast is now available on 9 platforms. We are available on Spotify, Anchor, which is the platform that hosts the podcast. We are also available on Apple. If you're not, because I know there's been a lot of controversy concerning Spotify, but we are also available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Overcast, Breaker, Castbox, Pocket Cast, and Stitcher. Now, I've also found us on several other platforms. So if you enjoy my content and you're looking to, I'm just going to go ahead and leave that. So if you're looking to find me and you are confused about where to find me, if you just want to type in your search engine, Adam's Rib Media Ministry, and usually by the time you get to Adam's Rib, I come up and I haven't changed my little icon thing. I plan on changing it sometime here soon, just because sometimes you get a little bored, and you know how we ladies do. We like to change things up every now and again. So what I'm going to do with this is do 3 notables, and then the next podcast will be a topic that I think is integral to the subject of Black feminism. And one of them I'm going to talk about this month is there a difference between Black feminism and white feminism? Because there's been in the past few years, there's been a little bit of controversy over the issue of white feminism. And so, being a little naive when I first started reclaiming my place as a Christian feminist, I was like, oh, well, good Lord, there's no difference. And so, the whole thing of, I don't happen to subscribe to the whole thing of it being being typical for Black women to be difficult. So if anything, calling a woman difficult makes me look at you as a man, because typically when women are called difficult, it's usually because we're being asked to do something that is either considered wrong or play along with some foolishness that a man has cooked up in his brain to try to get us to do that normally is going to be wrong. So tonight, so the one thing I would like to talk about, I really want to talk about stuff that I've already researched. So I probably won't go into that, but sometime this month I'm going to talk about the whole issue of white feminism versus black feminism, and the whole issue, because next month will be Women's History Month. And so, usually for me, it's a bit of an extension, but then I usually go into about 31 days of global feminism. And I talk about the whole issue of the different takes, because I follow a couple from my Yes All Women days. I follow a couple of posters that are Middle Eastern. And while there are a lot of commonalities to the fight for equal rights, you have to realize that women globally there are still women that can't drive. There are still women who get fought getting an education. I looked at this one thing on YouTube where it talked about this African village where the women went and started their own village because they were so sick and tired of the male supremacy, of the male privilege, of the misogyny, of the archaic teachings that the men were going through. And so they started their own village. And part of me, the part that still has a desire to get married, was like, well, what do you do? Like, because my thinking is, well, you still need to procreate. What are you going to do about reproducing? And I guess the men are allowed to visit them. They got to a point where once they got established, the men were allowed to visit. But one of the rules they had is if you come over here with that mess that you are doing over in your own village, then you got to go home. You can't stay here and bring all of that nonsense that you brought over, the same stuff that we left your village to get rid of. You are not allowed to come over here with that. And I thought that was interesting. I'm like, well, because now they're in charge. So, hey. So tonight is going to be, I'm going to honor the third black woman to be selected and possibly being considered to be nominated for the Supreme Justice seat. So earlier I was looking at one of my subscribed. So the people that I subscribe to, I call the Smart Black Girls Club. And so the Smart Black Girls Club is just that. It's people whose opinions, and they don't have to be PhDs, they don't have to be Rhodes Scholars. They just have to be black women whose opinions that I respect. They don't have to be degree holders. They just have to be people whose opinions that I respect. People that when I think about something, I go, Or if I see their title, I go, I pretty much already know what I'm going to hear if I listen to this person, but I'm going to listen to it anyway. And it's always funny because I consider myself to be a smart black woman. So I tend to like to, iron sharpens iron. So I love, I love the round table discussion. I love the salon, not beauty salon, but the most, how can I say it, in the most original genesis of the word, which means a place where you can sit and discuss ideas and talk about, different things and discuss different topics. And lots of times when you have those discussions, you do come up with solutions. Never think, that those words are being wasted, because they're not. And I like to encourage that type of discussion, which is why I'm always open for people to comment. As long as you're respectful, wherever I am, you can feel free to comment. Please, no more comments on my speech or me saying, I already have apps and different things that I look for to help me with my delivery and different other stuff like that. I remember one time, and this is going to sound funny. I was working at a place, and there was this guy that to me was trying to take over the conversation. It was kind of a way of trying to have an upper hand. So I'm, asking, how can I help you? And so he was like, "Well, how are you doing today?" And so for some reason, it was like it hit me in my gut, like this conversations, and so usually I'm like, "Well, fine, how are you?" Because I usually see it as a way of trying to be friendly. But this wasn't a friendly phone call. For some reason, I was just like, "How can I help you today?" Because I just like wasn't in the mood. Like guys have this thing where they feel like you are supposed to entertain them no matter where you are. You can be at work, you can be in the middle of something, you can be doing whatever, and if they want to entertain you or they want to flirt with you or whatever, they think you're supposed to be receptive to being flirted with no matter what the situation is. And I'm like, if I'm at work, I'm not trying to flirt. I'm just like not in the mood for that mess. And I can remember when I used to do hair, we used to have to, have discussions on how to get them off of trying to get in your drawers. And so I tried to navigate the conversation into how can I help you today, because, and so he just went off, and I got called the B word and all this other stuff, and of course the standard line of I was only trying to be friendly. Right. And so, da 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 da. And by the way, um, you sound like a robot or whatever. Like, I guess I sounded too stiff. And so, one of the things I have noticed with white guys is if you don't want to entertain them, then you become the ice queen. So, certain terminology that men use to describe women, I even know the ethnic group that it originated with. And so I'm thinking to myself, you're calling a nonprofit because you obviously need help with something. You need resources, you need whatever. Who calls someplace where you need resources and then decide you're going to flirt? That's number one. And number two, I don't recall asking your opinion about how I sound on the phone. You called here for help. There are supervisors and everybody else recording our phone call. And if they want to give me feedback on how to deliver and how to sound friendlier and how to sound warmer and all that other stuff, they're going to be who I listen to. Okay? That is not the place for you to come and do all that. And plus, like I said, I've got like maybe 30 years worth of customer service experience. And even though the customer's feedback is important, trust and believe, most places where you go, your feedback is important. However, we also have to take into account that many people, if you've ever seen some of these Karen videos and different stuff that's around here, whether or not a person is having a good customer service experience really depends on how well things are going their way. So when things are not going their way, then all of a sudden, well, you're the worst piece of whatever, and blah, 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 blah. When things are going their way and they're getting something and it's the outcome that they want, oh, you are the best person in the world. This is the most wonderful place. I'll shop here from now on, and I'll tell my friends. And what is your name again? So, but like I said, when you comment, I really don't want any comments on, I really don't want no critiques on me. What I really want is for you to discuss the topic that I'm posting about. Okay? For that, I'm really not looking for any critiques on my delivery or anything like that, because I pretty much know my strong and weak points. And like I said before, I already have stuff in place to try to help me with that. So I'm not trying, not to sound snotty, not to sound stuck up, not to sound whatever, not even trying to sound like I can't receive criticism. But that's not the kind of atmosphere I'm trying to have. I really want a friendly atmosphere where we can discuss different ideas. And like I said before, if you want to ask me to speak on topics, so if you want to ask me to speak on different topics and everything else, that's welcome. I usually welcome all criticism, anything that can help things get better. But I really don't want anybody in my comment section critiquing the delivery. I'm just not with that. I already have people that can help me with that, and so that's not the kind of conversations I want to have. So if you look up and you see me delete your comment, or if you're saying, and please, by my God, don't be rude. Like, say what you have to say, but don't be rude. Don't be disrespectful at all. I just don't, because it's really not that serious that you have to be disrespectful. Um, so I looked at one of my people that I subscribed to this morning, and I saw where she talked about the Anita Hill case. And I will be discussing the Anita Hill and Clarence Thomas case. And she talked about, she went into detail. She did a really good job. I mean, she went into both their backgrounds, and then she went into, the whole reason why Miss Hill wound up testifying against Clarence Thomas. Now, Clarence Thomas was not one of my favorites when it came to nominees for Supreme Court justice. Number one, I was a Thurgood Marshall fan. Thurgood was history making. There is a movie that Chadwick Boseman was in where he played Thurgood. And granted, he didn't look a thing like Thurgood, but he did such a good job playing the part of Thurgood that you didn't pay attention to the fact that he did not bear a physical resemblance to him at all. Okay, but he channeled that character so well. And I can't go into Thurgood right here, but if you want to read up on Thurgood Marshall and talk about the different cases the different history making cases that he helped change the law, especially in favor of Black people, please do so. I'm not going to go into it here because I really don't have time. I don't want to be on here too long because I'm seriously doing 2 podcasts a night right now. So Thurgood Marshall retired out of his seat. So the first thing most of us was thinking, because he was not only the first Black man to make Supreme Court justice, which is history making all by itself, he was also the only one up to that point to do it. So he, in all the years that he was on there, and he was on there a long time, they never appointed no other Blacks. And I was like, well, that was good while it lasted. I can tend to be a little cynical sometimes, and not hopeless, but cynical. My faith is in God still. So I was like, well, and at the time that he retired, the first George Bush was in office. Not George W., but the first George Bush, his father, was in office. And this was during the 90s. So the first thing we were thinking was, well, what a conservative. So they did the conservative thing and they picked a Black man. And so people were like, well, at least they, picked the brother or whatever. And I'm like, let me tell you something. He is a brother in skin only. Okay. Because I promise you that he is not Thurgood. Okay. Which, granted, I don't expect him to be a cookie cutter, but I thank God for Essence Magazine and different other Black publications at that time that did their research, and it was just as I suspected. He was not. He's a conservative, and I was like, yeah, because they're not gonna pick nobody that is gonna do the stuff that Thurgood made history for doing. That's not how that goes. And so they picked him, and then the next thing you know, all the sexual harassment stuff came out because they go looking for last year's baby poop whenever you run for office. So they found all of this, and the next thing you know, Anita Hill is being brought forward and being asked to testify. And so the young lady did a very thorough job of describing, the history that Miss Hill had with Clarence Thomas, and how and the nature of the harassment, and how he continued to keep pestering and everything. And if you want to, I'll be talking about it, because Anita Hill is going to be one of my number one. It was brave of her. She's made a lot of strides. This is not the only thing that she's known for. She's actually a very smart, very articulate, very intelligent Black woman, and has made a lot of strides, and has argued in favor and lectured in favor of women's rights. So she is a formidable female. She's a force to be reckoned with, and she was back then. In fact, one of the things that was being said during their trial was they had never seen so many well-spoken, articulate Black people in one setting, and I was like, I don't think that does not sound like a compliment. I'm kind of like Chris Rock. Okay, speak so well is not a compliment. And so I'm like, well, they're both law grad school, letters behind their names. I would expect for them to sound, I don't expect for them to sound street, with the level of education and then the positions that they have held. I expect them to sound pretty academic, and that's what they sounded like. I didn't, but that there's room there for offense if you, and it was offensive. Okay. But the point that I'm going to make before I go into this third honoree is that between Miss Brown, Miss Childs, and Miss Kruger, this nomination will only be the third time that a Black person, male or female, will be nominated for the Supreme Court justice seat. So, out of these three ladies, because there's several other nominees as well, but out of these three ladies, if they are the ones to be picked, this will be only the third time that a Black person has held the seat. Okay, so even in all the years, and Clarence Thomas has been in his seat for a very long time. Okay, and he's still been the only Black person to be in that seat. So with this nomination here, this will be only the third time that a Black person, male or female, has served on the Supreme Court justice. Plenty of white men. I think a few white women. I know that I think there's a Latin woman, but only the third time for a Black person in all the years that the Supreme Court has been around. Okay, so it's something to think about. So now that I have taken up 22 minutes to talk here, I can go ahead and go into our honoree. So the young lady that I'm going to talk about in this podcast is Ketanji Brown Jackson. So Ketanji Brown Jackson was born September 14th, 1970. She is an American attorney and jurist, serving as a circuit judge on the United States Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit. And she is a very pretty Black woman. From 2013 to 2021, she was a district judge on the United States District Court for the District of Columbia. She is also a vice chair of the United States Sentencing Commission from 2010 to 2014. Since 2016, she has been a member of the Harvard Board of Overseers. Okay, and the office that she holds now, she was appointed by Joe Biden. Okay, so the office she holds now, she was appointed by Joe Biden. When she was United States District Court of the District of Columbia, she was appointed by Barack Obama. The position of Vice Chair of the United States Sentencing Commission, also Barack Obama. That's who she was appointed by. She is currently married with 2 children. And her education, she graduated from Harvard University with a JD and let me see, what is AB? Bachelor of Arts. That's her undergrad. So let me see. So, Miss Jackson was born in Washington, D.C. and raised in Miami, Florida. She attended Harvard University for college and law school, where she served as an editor on the Harvard Law Review. She began her legal career with 3 clerkships, including one with the U.S. Supreme Court Associate Justice, Mr. Stephen Breyer. After Breyer announced his retirement, January 2022, President Joe Biden declared his intent to nominate a black woman as the next justice of the court. I know, it looks like it's leaning some kind of way, doesn't it? According to news outlets, Jackson is a contender for the Supreme Court nomination. Okay, like all 3 of these women are women after my own heart. So Miss Brown was born. We already covered, her year of birth. Her father, Johnny Brown, was an attorney for the Miami-Dade School Board, and her mother, Ellery, was a school principal at New World School of the Arts. Her parents were both graduates of historically black colleges and universities. Jackson grew up in Miami, Florida, and graduated from Miami Palmetto Senior High School in 1988. After high school, Jackson studied government at Harvard University, graduated in 1992 with an AB magna cum laude. When she was in college, her uncle was sentenced to life in prison due to a nonviolent cocaine conviction. Years later, Jackson persuaded a law firm to take his case pro bono, and President Barack Obama eventually commuted his sentence. Another uncle served as Miami's police chief. During her time at Harvard, Jackson led protests against a student who displayed a Confederate flag from his dorm window. Ms. Jackson worked as a staff reporter and researcher for Time magazine from 1992 to 1993, then attended Harvard Law School, where she was a supervising editor of the Harvard Law Review. She graduated in 1996 with a Juris Doctorate cum laude, or cum laude. After law school, Ms. Jackson served as a law clerk to Justice Patty V. Saris of the U.S. District Court of the District of Massachusetts from 1996 to 1997, then to Judge Bruce M. Celia of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the First Circuit from 1997 to 1998. She spent a year in private practice at the Washington, D.C. law firm Miller, Cassidy, LaRocca, and Lewin, now part of Baker Botts, then clerked for Justice Stephen Breyer of the U.S. Supreme Court from 1999 to 2000. Ms. Jackson worked in private legal practice from 2000 to 2003. From 2003 to 2005, she served as an assistant special counsel to the United States Sentencing Commission. From 2005 to 2007, Ms. Jackson was an assistant federal public defender in Washington, D.C., where she landed cases before the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit. From 2007 to 2010, Ms. Jackson was an appellate litigator at Morrison and Forrester. So her time at the U.S. Sentencing Commission, she started there at July 23rd, 2009, and Barack Obama nominated her to become vice chair of the commission. The U.S. Senate confirmed Ms. Jackson by unanimous consent. Okay. On February 11th, 2010, she succeeded Michael E. Horowitz, who served from 2009 to 2003. Okay, so it looks like this is going to be a two-parter. So it looks like I accidentally, I don't know where the last one stops, the last recording stops. So I'm not going to go back over that again. So what I'm going to do is I'm starting right here with part 2 of that. All I had was some finishing remarks to put on here. So I will be going into the next podcast after this one, and that is all. So the next podcast is going to be a topic and not a person. So be good, and I will talk to you on the next recording. Hello, you have reached the message line for Adams Rib Media Ministry. If you would like to give me a shout out, recommend some topics for discussion, or give an opinion about some topics that I've already discussed, either here on my podcast or on my blogs, leave me a message and I will get right back to you. Have a blessed day. Bye-bye.